Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I almost forgot the intro to my own show, man.
It happens, man. It's hard. It's hard stuff.
I am your host, Ben Henry. Alongside my brother, he's bang up to the elephant, Matthew Henry.
Why, thank you. I do try to keep my elephant as bang up as possible.
Yeah. Personally, I would never bang up an elephant.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from them as much as I possibly can.
Well, first of all, yeah, they're big. And second of all, they would remember.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Because allegedly they never forget. I think the board game that I played the most as a child was called Elephants Never Forget.
Oh, I vaguely remember that now.
Yeah. No, I remember it distinctly.
We both used to cheat on that, didn't we?
I don't know, but I remember it. You probably cheated all the time, and you were 5 years older than me. Well, you still are, but now it's harder for you to cheat me because I know what's happening. I know what's going on, and I know you don't live up to that persona that you put out there. You know, it's just no.
Just had to teach you a lesson, Ben. You know, life isn't fair. You know.
Right. Well, thank you for teaching me a lesson. For those of you who don't know what bang up to the elephant means, which is probably everybody, look it up. What am I? ChatGPT. No, I would get it right. Although I did ask ChatGPT what this meant as a sanity check, just to check all of my sources, and they all agreed. So I think ChatGPT has this one correct, but I'm still not going to tell you what it means. Let's see. What do we do now? Oh, yeah, that's right, Matthew. Last week I started a new trend in the show.
Wait, that was a trend?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's time for Shared Uncomfortable Truth. I'll go first this time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you go first. Okay.
Sometimes, Matthew, when I open up the garbage to take it out, my stomach growls. And that's my uncomfortable truth.
Okay. I'm not sure I have. I'm not sure I have something to kind of stack up to that.
I'm sorry, man. That's yeah.
Okay. I had a lot of like partial bottles of bourbon, and so I poured them all into the same bottle and but it was the most expensive one.
Oh. So you kept the most expensive bottle, well, but it's just really Matthew's
just a
blend.
Mix mash of all the different bourbons that I had at the time.
Right. A little Evan Williams. Yeah. All right. Good. I like that one. I mean, it's not quite as
grotesque. Yeah.
Well, one is like questioning my subconscious. One is questioning your conscious choices. So, like, maybe yours was a deeper cut than mine was. Yours was more risky.
Okay. All right.
Like, I don't choose for my stomach to growl. It just does. You chose to do that to your bourbons. Anyway, today is Sunday, October 27th, as we record this podcast. Giants fans, I'd like to tell you that the season is over. But no, it's just over for us. And it's been so long, we probably can't even remember when it was when it was the baseball season for us, which I think is probably because it was not very memorable.
Right.
That was the reason number one. Wasn't very memorable.
Also, it was like a month ago at this time.
Yeah, and I'm just ready for it to be over. I'm especially ready for it to be over because as much as I've been trying to not pay attention, Like, I get dribs and drabs of information, and I've heard things and I know things, and I'm not happy. I'm not happy about it. But yeah, so the 2024 season drags on, and your San Francisco Giants are still not in it. And we're going to talk about what is happening, because we have to. Like, we have to. I know you don't want to, but this is part of being a Giants fan. Like, you have to confront these moments when they happen. Just like we all loved it when Buster was running out to hug Brian Wilson and was looking around confused because he couldn't understand why Brian had turned his back on him. Just as much as we all loved that moment and lived that, we have to live this moment too. That's part of being a fan.
Okay.
But before we do that, we have some housekeeping to attend to.
Yes, we do. Ben, has been good knowing you.
Yeah.
Hanging up the microphone. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
You're hanging up the microphone, or I'm hanging up the microphone? Which one of us?
I was gonna, but maybe it would be worse if you did it. I don't know.
Okay.
It probably would.
Oh, right. Yeah. So anyway, what's the news? So last year, we set the trend of going full bore through the entire off season. And now that we have tricked all the other podcasts into doing the same thing, we're going to zig while they all zag. And we're going to go into winter mode. So we will not be publishing every week for the next couple of months. We are going to instead drop down to a monthly cadence. So we'll be coming to you once a month. And then we will return for the end of our winter break on January 6th. It will still be the 2024 season. We don't start our new seasons until opening day. So it'll still be season 4 of Giant Cocktails. But we'll be back from our winter break on January 6th. However, along with our 2 monthly episodes, which we will have in November and December, we will also have emergency podcasts whenever anything significant happens. So if there's a big free agent signing or Buster gets a hangnail, we're going to be there as it happens. Well, we're going to be here in our closets talking about it as it happens. And then in your ear holes, the next day. Or maybe later that day. It depends on when it happens. But anyway, we're going to have emergency podcasts when the moment warrants it. So we're not going to disappear completely. And then also, yes, so the November episode will be on Sunday, November 25th. And our December episode will be on Sunday, December 23rd. So you can listen to us while you are preparing for the holidays, shopping, cooking, packing for travel, or if you're lonely and have no friends, we'll be your friends, and we'll keep you company during those holidays.
Absolutely.
That's right. So okay, so that's what's happening here at Giant Cocktails, and like I said, we'll be back from our winter break on January 6th, and that's the update. That's the news. Oh, and by the way, there are still episodes of The Perfect Sip for you to listen to. And if you haven't listened to any of those and you miss us, you can go over there and get, well, let's face it, 75% of it is me. It's more like 90%. Because even within the episodes where Matthew's there, I do most of the talking.
He is the host, folks.
That's true. That is true. That is mainly why that happens.
It's not like you bound me up in the corner and put tape over my mouth. It's just...
No. And presumably we'll have more episodes of The Perfect Sip in the future. We're still trying to figure that out too. So yeah. So that's what's going on in the podcast world. Today, what are we going to talk about today? Does anybody have any ideas? Anybody?
Well, we're going to want to talk about the World Series.
We're gonna. I told people we're gonna. This is part of being a fan. We have to.
Okay.
This is it. we're going to talk about that. But then we're just going to check in. We're having a little check-in about our feelings and expectations for the off season. And then Matthew and I are going to anoint the all first quarter of a century team members of the San Francisco Giants. It has been 25. We've had 25 seasons of baseball in the 21st century. It's technically not true. Okay, we're counting year 2000 as being part of this century. Like, if you don't agree, like, well, I'm kind of with you on that one, but, like, most people aren't. So this is how we're doing it. So that's what we're going to talk about later in the show. But first, Matthew, we got to talk about the World Series.
Okay. All right.
It's happening.
All right.
There's teams in it.
I hear that. Allegedly, it is happening.
So my question for you, Matthew, is: have you been watching? It's supposed to be the biggest world draw ever. Like,
yeah. No, I haven't. I haven't watched anything.
You haven't watched a single game?
No, I turned it on at one point to watch it, and then I had technical difficulties actually on my YouTube TV, and then I was like, that must be a sign, and I just went and did something else.
Yeah. Willie reached down and he turned the channel. Right? Is that what happened? He was like, you don't need to watch that.
Exactly. I was like, thank you for sparing me, Willie.
Seems like something he would do. Well, Matthew, I have watched both games. I turned on game one in the 8th inning. And unfortunately, I saw that happen all the way through its completion. And I will tell you this, you can't play sloppy baseball and expect to win baseball games. That's what the Yankees proved to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in game two, I came downstairs in the midst of working on the perfect sip. I came down for a little break, and I caught, well, I guess technically I caught a third of an inning, because I came down and there was one out in the bottom of the 9th. And then I went upstairs when they did a pitching change to after Trinan had barfed all over the place and was just getting ready to piss the whole game away.
Mm-hmm. Their Ryan Walker came in for their Camilo Duvall.
That's right. That's right. And their Ryan Walker, I heard later, got the job done. So, to make a long story short, the Dodgers are now leading in the World Series 2-0. And I also heard that Mr. Shohei Ohtani hurt his shoulder. And I'm not going to talk about how I felt when I found out that, A, it wasn't going to impact his ability to play in the World Series, nor am I going to talk about how I felt when I found out which shoulder he hurt.
Well, as a Giants fan, one could guess what the answer is to both of those.
Especially when it's Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
But there was some significant things happened in game one that I do want to discuss. So in game one, that's the thing about sports, Matthew, is that you don't get to choose as a fan who succeeds and who fails. Right? That's, I think, one of the nice things about sports. That's what makes them compelling and interesting.
Yeah.
You never know who the hero is going to be.
Totally. Yeah. And you don't know when something is going to happen that's never happened before either.
That's right. And something significant happened when the Dodgers won the game on a walk-off grand slam. It was the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history. And which is rare and unique and interesting in and of itself. Like immediately after it happened, they started showing on TV Kirk Gibson running around the bases. And I was like, is this the same? And it's not the same. It's not the same because the guy who hit it, while he has had an injured leg, his injury is not as significant as Gibson's was back in the day. But anyway, what is also interesting is that you can't choose who has those heroic moments. And I thought, isn't it interesting, Matthew, that one of the world's, at least one of the game's biggest a-holes. Like, I mean, I don't know that you create a bigger villain than this guy. You know? F***ing Freddie Freeman.
That's right. F***ing Freddie Freeman. Yes.
Triple F. Hits the first walk-off grand slam in in World Series history. I wish it was the first walk-off grand slam in Dodger history. And you know, it's amazing. It's amazing how you have a villain like this, and he comes up and it's like, you know, and then he has a good thing like that happen to him. Against poor Nestor Cortez, you know? I mean, what I love about Nestor is he reminds me of me.
He does have a little bit of a resemblance to Ben, doesn't he?
He shouldn't be out there.
A little pudge. That's what he looks around. Like. Yeah, a little pudge, yeah.
He looks like he shouldn't be out there. And he looked like he shouldn't have been out there on that pitch too. So
that was such a good pitch, man. It just right down the.
It was right. It was just so fat. It was so fat. It was as fat as Nestor.
Yeah. It's almost as fat as me. I didn't watch it live, but of course, I can't get away from it on social media. So I definitely have seen the aftermath of all of this.
It was horrible. It was horrible. But then, Matthew, well, not then, but earlier in that game, Matthew, I saw something that was remarkable. It was perhaps the worst display of parenting that I have ever seen. I guess we shouldn't be surprised it was done by a Dodger fan. But Matthew, I saw a man do something that had an impact on his child of significant proportions.
Yeah.
That like, I'm just going to say, like, I will tell you this. I, as a parent, have never done anything even close to that. I, as a child, never had anything even close to that. That's how bad this was, right? It was just so bad. This is the worst display of parenting I've ever seen. A Dodger fan reached out over the fence, like he practically got onto the field, right? I mean, like he was so far out there that everybody knew that he was over on the field of play, and he caught, I mean, basically it was a fly ball, right? You know, he for a brief moment tried to claim that it was going to be a home run and he didn't interfere, but it was a hot second before he knew that he was an idiot. But the cake is, Matthew, is that, you know, he looked like a guy who should have known better. But he knew he messed up.
Yeah.
So they showed him, and he was just packing up his stuff. Right? Security hadn't even showed up. The ushers hadn't even showed up. And you know what? Sometimes, Matthew, in big games like that, especially if you got a kid with you, the ushers will come and they'll just move you to a different part of the park. Mm-hmm. It makes it look like you got ejected, but you didn't really. But he was getting ready. He was going to eject himself. And the kicker was all of this is that he had his kid with him. And what happened later in the game?
Yeah, I did see this later, and all I could go through my head is like, this kid is never going to let his dad forget this, right? I mean, like 30 years from now, he's going to, at Thanksgiving dinner, he's going to be like, hey, Dad, remember that time when you got us kicked out of the World Series game and then Freddie Freeman hit the only walk-off home run Grand Slam in World Series history? It doesn't get any worse than that as a fan, right? I mean, that is an all-time F-up. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the worst display of parenting I've ever seen.
You can't get any worse. I've done some really stupid things as a parent. Mm-hmm. Not that me. Level.
I'm perfect, but
not to that level. I've never been that level. Definitely not. And it makes me feel good, actually, that there was somebody else and not me.
Yeah, it makes me feel good that I was a Dodger fan, but that's because I'm evil.
Well, and a Giants fan.
And a Giants fan. That's true. But you know what? Maybe that will turn this kid. Maybe the kid will become a Giants fan. You know, he'll find the light because of this dark moment, and he'll come over to the orange and black. One can only hope. But Matthew, it's time for you to ask us our trivia question.
All right. Today's trivia question is in part because this last week it was announced that the Giants have 3 finalists for a Gold Glove. We have Patrick Bailey at catcher, Matt Chapman at third base, and Mike Yastrzemski in right field. So it got me thinking, when was the last time the Giants had 3 Gold Glove winners in the same season, and who were they?
Hang on, I'm thinking.
You're Googling is what you're doing.
I'm thinking. No, I'm thinking. I'm not Googling. I don't need to Google this. I'm baseball referencing. It was I'm going with Jackson, Cohen, and Terry.
Oh, wow, way back when.
Yeah.
Okay. Did they even have Gold Gloves back then?
Shh.
Okay. All right. That's your answer. Okay. We'll see how wrong Ben is at the end of the episode.
Isn't it time for the booze, boys?
Yes. Yes, it is a time.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
Well, Bob, I am drinking what I call an Allspice Old Fashioned because we're getting into fall and the holidays are coming up, and Allspice Dram has to be a key part of your fall and winter cocktail repertoire. So what's in an Allspice Old Fashioned? Well, it's got 2 ounces of bourbon, a ½ ounce of allspice dram, a ¼ ounce of Demerara syrup, 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, and 3 dashes of orange bitters. Put all those into a mixing glass with ice, and you're going to stir it for a good 30 seconds, strain it into a rocks glass with a large chunk of ice if you have it. And then you're going to express a little orange peel over the drink, and then you're going to add that to the drink as well as a few cocktail cherries because it's fall and you need as many cocktail cherries as you can get. I've got 3 in my glass right now. So that's what I'm drinking, Bob. The Allspice Old Fashioned. But before you ask Ben what he had, I do want to say that I do have a Halloween-themed cocktail over on the Happy Hour episode of The Perfect Sip that was launched on Friday. So if you want a Halloween-themed cocktail, go over and listen to that.
What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. That is very kind of you. Yes, I, too, am drinking a Halloween cocktail. Well, I guess I am drinking a Halloween cocktail. Matthew's just drinking this allspice thing, whatever that is. But yes, it is the cocktail that I presented on Friday on the Happy Hour episode for The Perfect Sip. And what is that cocktail? Well, it is the Horseman's Head, which, yes, I did do about a year ago on this show, I believe. Anyway, what is in the Horseman's Head? It has 1 ounce of Mr. Black coffee liqueur, 1 ounce of vodka, 2 ounces of heavy cream, and then 3/4 of an ounce of a pumpkin spice syrup. To make it, you combine the Mr. Black's, the vodka, and the pumpkin spice syrup in a mixing glass, and you stir to combine. Pour that over a large single ice cube in a rocks glass, and then stir gently to slightly chill. And then, in a separate mixing glass, you're going to whip up your whipped cream with a milk frother. You can also shake it in a mason jar. And once the cream has thickened to a thick but pourable consistency, you're going to pour that gently over the glass, over the ice cube, and it'll spread out over the top of your cocktail. If you want to learn more about this cocktail or how to make the pumpkin spice syrup, then you can go listen to the Happy Hour episode on The Perfect Sip. And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob. The Horseman's Head.
That's a tasty cocktail.
It's really good. It's very decadent. Oh, I like that one a lot.
Tasty, tasty. All right. Mm-hmm. Ben, do we have any expectations for the off season?
I have a lot of expectations.
I have none. Moving on.
Well,
I see. I've got a couple expectations.
I see.
Now
You
that
have no
think about it, there are a few.
expectations.
So go ahead. What are your expectations?
Oh, Buster's just going to do nothing. Okay. Well, I have no expectations. No, actually, I think this is interesting because I think a lot of people are wondering, like, what are the Giants going to do? You know, a lot of people are doing mailbag episodes right now, or mail episode blog posts and whatnot. And so you see a lot of fans are asking questions, which is interesting for us because we get to see a lot of what those questions are. And I've noticed that a lot of people are asking questions about what are the Giants going to do? What's their philosophy? And part of the issue with having Buster take over is that we really don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what to expect. So I think a lot of people are asking this question: what direction are the Giants going to go in? And, I'm in the same boat. What direction are they going to go in? And, being the cynic that I am, I keep defaulting to, they're not going to do anything. They're just not going to do anything. And I think that's because for the last 10 years, man, it's just that the moves have been so underwhelming. It's just been one underwhelming offseason after another, and I've just gotten used to it. So I think that's kind of what my expectations are, is that they're not going to do anything. But here's what I think. I've been thinking about this, and I think based on what Buster said that he just felt like that he wants to put the best talent that he can on the field. So I think any signing that you see the Giants make is going to be the best guy that they think that they could get for that particular spot, right? Wherever it is on the roster. So what I'm going to expect is free agent signings that have a purpose and not a lot of these like
value
rolling.
Driven.
Yeah. Not all these value driven, like bargain basement, like, oh, this guy got hurt and this guy's going to be on the IL for 3 months. And we're not going to see that sort of garbage. And I call it garbage because it didn't work. It might have been fun and it might have been intriguing when that guy got a 102 WAR or a 103 OPS plus. Sorry, not a 101 WAR. That makes no sense. 101 WAR would be great, though.
It would be.
Can we get one of those?
No.
No. I was mixing my stats. But anyway, like that. So that's what I expect. I expect that the signings that we do see, the acquisitions that we do see, are going to be thoughtful and are going to be, the intent for them is to be impactful. We're not rolling the dice anymore. We're making intelligent decisions based on the best guy that we can find. So that's my expectation. And maybe that's sort of a subtle difference, but I think that's my expectation. I don't think that the Giants are going to spend a lot of money. I don't. But I think I've already sort of telegraphed that, because I don't think they're going to get Juan Soto, even if they want to. But I'm not super sure that's something that they want to pursue right now.
Okay. All right. As you're talking, my expectation list has grown. First, I expect them to hire a GM. So there's that.
Okay, I expect that too.
Mainly because I don't think Buster's going to be doing any of the heavy lifting. He's not going to be the one negotiating contracts and, all the ins and outs of that. He's going to have somebody that knows how to do that, because as much as we love Buster and as much as we may believe that he's a great fit, he's never done that. So there's that. I also feel like they're going to have solved the shortstop situation. And so that is an expectation of mine, that they will bring in somebody. And if we're using your theory, then that's got to be someone like Willy Adames. And maybe Hassan Kim, if they're okay with him coming in halfway through the year. But there does need to be a significant upgrade. And as I say that, halfway through the year injury stuff, that's more Farhan think than anything else. So maybe we need to just kind of focus on Willy Adames and not anyone else. But I also feel like there's the first base situation and the Bryce Eldridge thing. And so who do they bring in? Do they just ride with Lamont Wade Jr. And then when Bryce Eldridge is ready, then he takes over? Do they bring in somebody on a short-term contract? I think my expectation is that something will be done to address that. I just don't know what it is. So those are kind of the things that I'm expecting. I like to say that I'd love to have Juan Soto and we should all go get it, but I don't have any expectations on that. I'd like to think that if Buster were to be at the table for a conversation with Juan Soto about that, then maybe that would make a difference and that maybe we could convince someone like Juan Soto to come to San Francisco. But I also don't know. I don't have any expectations that that's going to happen. So I'm going to keep my expectations low so that I'm not hugely disappointed when February rolls around and we've got the same starting outfield that we did at the end of last year.
I think that on the Soto question, I think Boris is going to have to work hard to woo the Giants to act like they're interested.
Oh, that's a good point, right? Because the Giants have been the team that has kind of driven up the price for all of his guys.
That's right. And I don't know. I mean, it felt like on Buster's very first day, he fired a shot at Scott Boras.
He did.
and I thought that was very bold, and I think it says a lot. Like, I don't expect the Giants to get Soto. I don't expect Soto to really want to come to San Francisco because I believe he's going to want to stay a Yankee. Now, I heard somebody somewhere, maybe it was on Giants Talk, ask the question of like, do you think if the Yankees win the World Series, that'll make it easier for him to go somewhere else? And maybe that would factor in, but at the end of the day, I think either way, Soto's going to want to stay a Yankee. And that's why I think he won't want to come to San Francisco. Doesn't have anything to do with like, the Bay Area or the long plane rides. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's going to be that he wants to stay a Yankee. So what Boris wants is he wants Buster to participate so that the Giants can do what they've done the last few years, which is drive up the price. And there's a part of me that would love for Buster and the Giants to just be like, nope, not interested. Like we want players that want to be here. So if Soto is going to have serious conversations with the Giants, then maybe Soto needs to do a little bit of selling. You guys should want me. You should want to participate in this bidding war. And, and if he's any of a good actor like Aaron Judge was, then maybe he'll succeed. But maybe that's just the bitterness of Aaron Judge's two-facedness that's still making me bitter and angry. Why are you giving me that look?
Because I think we're not here to have a talk about Juan Soto, but I think the optimist side of me says that the only thing that may get him to San Francisco is if he doesn't want to play second fiddle to anyone else. And there are not that many teams that fit that, like, don't need a second fiddle and also could pay him. So
that's true. True.
That's my only thought on that. But again, no expectations that that's going to happen.
Yeah, agreed. I think that Juan Soto is a pipe dream, and not one that I expect. Now, I'm all for pleasant surprises.
Totally.
But I just don't expect it. All right. Well,
it's time, Ben.
It's time.
The all Millenium team.
The all Millenium team.
And
I mean, we're 25 years into a millennium, right? So it's time.
That's right. It is. Yeah. I mean, it's a quarter of the way through. A lot of baseball has been played, Ben.
It's a quarter of the way through the century, Matthew. It's like...
Oh, okay. So the all-century team. I don't care what you call it, but it's the first 25 years.
1/4 of 1/100th. 1/400th. All millennial team.
And isn't that an honor to be on that?
Indeed. Is that right? No, it's one.
Okay. It's you're right. It's a small fraction, but nonetheless, whatever we call it, there were some interesting tidbits as I was going through nominees for this, Ben. One is because I went back, I started with the year 2000 and I just went through all their lineups. So the nominees are very subjective. They were just, do they pass the eyeball test? Do they pass the, oh yeah, that guy test? Right.
Okay.
And so I just was like, oh, okay. And yeah, I just threw them in there. Now, there were some as I got through, like when I got into like year 2016, 2017, and I only had like one nominee for a position or whatever. It did make me like think like, there's been some pretty, like, there hasn't been a whole lot of, like, really, really great guys as Giants over the last 25 years. There's been some really good ones.
Won 3 World Series, Matthew.
I know, but not, it's funny you say that, but even those teams, they switched players. There were some key position changes. It was hard to kind of argue for some of those players as being like all, century when they had a key role that year, but really not over a long period of time. So I thought we'd start with first base because this is really indicative of what I was just talking about. There's really just 2 players in the last 25 years that you could consider being like the all-century team. And those 2 players, in my mind, and you could correct me if you have another, are JT Snow and Brandon Belt.
Oh, we're starting. We're into it. Sorry, I got distracted. I wasn't listening, and then you said JT Snow, and my head snapped up. Like, what?
We're starting. But this is indicative of what I was just talking about, which you weren't listening. But there's not a whole lot of people to choose from in each of these different positions. And then I was looking at JT Snow and Brandon Belt, and there are some people who are recent Giants fans that have very strong opinions about Brandon Belt.
Okay.
And the Belt Wars were real, Ben. And yet, when I look at the numbers, and I have them here in our show notes, of the years that JT Snow was a Giant and the years that Brandon Belt was a Giant, you tell me who had the better career as a Giant. Now, these are strictly Giant numbers, just so you know that. There's none of their other numbers. Of course, Brandon Belt only had one of their season. JT Snow had like 3 or 4 with the Angels or whatever. So, as you can see, all but 2 of all the metrics that Baseball Reference kind of tracks points to Brandon Belt, and including the biggest one is WAR. Brandon Belt more than doubles the WAR of JT Snow. Brandon Belt had a 29.7 WAR in his Giants career. JT Snow had 12.4. JT Snow also played in about 250 less games than Brandon Belt, so a season and a half less. But the only 2 stats that JT Snow had a better number were the old school stats of batting average and on base percentage, right? So batting average 273 to Brandon Belt's 261, and a 369 on base, which is interesting because Brandon Belt's no slouch at 357 on base. But JT Snow had a better. Everything else, Brandon Belt had a higher slugging percentage, he had a higher OPS, and his OPS plus was 124, meaning he was 24% better above league average. JT Snow was 112, only 12% above league average. So JT Snow had 4 Gold Gloves, but Brandon Belt had 2 World Series championships and 1 All-Star appearance. JT Snow was never an All-Star as a Giant.
Wow.
So I feel like Brandon Belt, all-century team. What do you think?
Wrong. So it's not because it's JT Snow, but I do want to fight for Team JT just for a really quick second here, because first of all, JT Snow saved Darren Baker's life. Who did what did Brandon Belt do? Brandon Belt put some electrical tape on his jersey.
Okay.
So like those are like, one saved a life, one put tape on his jersey.
Well, if you're going down that route, I will say that JT Snow produced the greatest moment I've ever seen live at a baseball game.
Well, that was my next thing. You could tell the story.
Well, JT Snow hit the game-tying home run.
It was a game-tying home run, yeah.
Game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th in the playoffs against the Mets.
I don't know who it was. They were losing. It was the bottom of the 9th. They were down by 3, I think.
Yeah, and JT Snow hit a game-tying home run. The crowd goes crazy. We're hugging and kissing strangers, and Ben thinks that we were only down. I couldn't
understand why everybody was so darn happy. Like, I was just like, we're still down by a run. Like, I don't know what happened, folks. Like, I'm pretty short, and our seats were really good. Okay, so it was kind of hard. Everybody was standing. It was kind of hard to see what happened. And then, he hit it up onto the portwalk. Oh no, the arcade. Yeah, sorry, not the portwalk. The portwalk's on the down below. He hit it up onto the arcade, and it was really exciting. And the water cannons went off. And everyone was like, ah! And I was just like, why is everybody so excited? And Matthew was hugging me. It's because I didn't know I didn't either miscounted the score or miscounted the base runners, but I thought they were still down by a run. So the most exciting moment that probably, well, I mean, I saw David Bell score the run to send them to the World Series.
So you had other opportunities. I did not.
I saw Scutaro dancing in the rain while I stood in the rain. You know, I saw lots of great things live, but Brandon Belt never did one of them. Okay? So, and it wasn't JT's fault that I didn't realize how great the moment was in the moment, and so I kind of wasted it. But that's not JT's fault. But anyway, the answer is Buster Posey. Buster played, he played 50, what is it? He played, hang on here. He played 42 games at first base in 2015. And that year, he was 9th in MVP voting and an All-Star and a Silver Slugger. So there you go. I don't want to get bogged down in these technical details. The answer is Buster Posey.
Okay. Are you going to say Buster Posey for every answer?
Move on to the next one.
Okay, next one. Second base. Okay. Second base. One of those. There's really, again, there's two possibilities, and it just depends on how much you weigh championships and how much you weigh, that era. But we got Jeff Kent and we got Joe Panik.
Yeah.
And I don't have their numbers pulled up. I didn't do a little screenshot on that one because I feel like we all know that Jeff Kent was one of the greatest hitting second basemen of all time. He had an MVP award. He was, just a great. And Joe Panik has a Gold Glove and a World Series ring. So I don't know, but those are really the only two options there, to be honest. Unless you want like Marco Scutaro as an honorable mention.
You're wrong again. And yes, Scutaro would be a good choice, but it's clearly Matt Duffy, best Instagrammer of all of them.
Because we have Matt Duffy's cat? Is that what you're saying?
That's right, yes. So, this is ridiculous. I mean, Matt Duffy had the best. Okay, look, okay, I really can't do this one because nobody was better than Kent at second base. Clearly, he's the obvious choice here. But Matt Duffy had a higher WAR than Joe Panik did in the same season. Now, he primarily played, I think, third base.
Third base, yeah.
But he played some second base.
Okay, so in fantasy baseball, that'll get him some.
Right.
He can start there, but
right. And also Joe Panik broke his belt during a game. And then the replacement belt that he put on was one of the worst things to ever go onto a baseball field that I have ever seen. So definitely downvotes for Joe for that.
Okay,
so
then it's definitely Jeff Kent. All right, Jeff Kent.
It's Matt Duffy, but only because Buster never played a single game at second base.
Okay, all right. Well,
but he was at first base, which is right next to it.
Let's move on to third base. Now, third base.
Okay. Ooh, third base.
There were some choices.
It's Matt Williams.
Starting with Pedro Feliz, and honestly, I have him in there because he was one of the early ones, and I wrote his name down because I was like, oh yeah, Pedro Feliz. And then, but as I got further into the years, maybe he doesn't belong on there. But I'll let you decide. And then there was, of course, the Panda, Pablo Sandoval. Mm-hmm. Then we had Evan Longoria, who, I'm putting in there because he played several years. He was one of the longest tenured third basemen in the Giants during that time.
That's the only reason you put him in there.
It is.
Wow, that's cold.
And then Matt Chapman.
Okay.
And for reasons. And so I'm gonna argue for Pablo Sandoval.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like the obvious answer.
It is the obvious answer. There's no other reason. I mean, and I don't even care how good defensively he was. I'm not going to look up his defensive stats because all I know is that he caught the final out of the 2014 World Series.
Correct.
And that's the only defense I need to know about Pablo Sandoval because he hit 3 home runs in a World Series game. And he has some rings. So Pablo Sandoval, that's it. That's the all-century third baseman.
Okay. Wrong again. And I have some ridiculous. I know that up to this point my logic may have been a little ridiculous.
Okay.
But I want to throw some honorable mentions out there before I get to the obvious answer. And my honorable mentions are Well, first of all, who doesn't love Happy Peter? Pedro
I
Feliz.
love.
I had a soft spot for in my heart for that guy. He was one of my favorite players, even though he didn't. I mean,
he wasn't very good.
I also like Rickard Fernite and Tsuyoshi Shinjo.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's like. But anyway, so Happy Peter. But I'm going to throw out David Bell. 2002 third baseman David Bell, looking for a job these days, I hear. And so that's what I'm going to throw out there. He got within a few outs of a ring. If Russell got to stay in that game, he'd probably have a ring. And if you're counting championships, he got as close as you can get to one without getting one with the Giants. So I'm going to throw out David Bell.
That's a good one. I did consider him, and in retrospect, I should have put him on the list. So you're right. David Bell. Okay.
Okay. But Matthew, are you a big fan of this statistic called WAR?
Well, as a newfangled baseball fan, yes, it's supposed to represent how much better you are than your peers, or how
that's
good
right.
you
It's
are
like a
compared to your
single
peers.
stat that kind of wraps it all up, and it's like if you have a lot of this and more than everybody else, then you're the best at all of baseball, right?
Yes.
And let's just do a sanity check since we're talking about the greatest players. There's this list, Matthew, of great players who have played for the Giants. And in this century, including the year 2000, on a technicality, here are some of the names who have had the top 10 WAR seasons. Barry Bonds. He takes up six. He takes up six of them. He takes up six of them. Okay, he takes up six. Okay, he takes up six, and then we get to already mentioned twice Jeff Kent, including one of his MVP seasons, and then I think the example that just sort of takes the cake, Rich Aurelia. All great players. Matthew, number 8 on this list. The 8th best season by any Giant in the last quarter century. And 6 of those seasons were by Barry Bonds. So really, the 3rd best player since Barry Bonds, so 4th best player overall in any single season, played third base. And he did it in 2024. Best third baseman of this century for the San Francisco Giants, Matt Chapman. That's the right answer. Take that, Panda.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. I didn't realize that we just witnessed one of the best Giant seasons.
Nobody realized it. Nobody realized it. Nobody talks about it. Like everybody's like, I don't know, was he good? I mean, I guess
he was kind of good.
Like, we were doing research for this, and I just pulled up that stat, and I was like, wow, I knew he was good. But now this is B-War, okay? This is B-War, not F-War. So if you're an F-War kind of guy, then I guess you're going to have to go do your own research. But this is off of Baseball Reference, not Fangraphs. And so yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's fair to pick a guy off of a single season, but I thought that was very notable. Matt Chapman had the 8th best season by any San Francisco Giant in the last 25 seasons this year. And we were all like, Blake Snell, blah-bitty, blah.
Well, he keeps this up. In another 25 years, he'll be on the next, maybe he'll make the All-Century team.
That's right. Although we probably won't count 2025 because, then we'll be like, oh, that's not part of it.
That's true. We probably won't.
So 2025 gets the shaft.
All right, Ben. Shortstop. There's really only 2. Mm-hmm. Rich Aurelia and Brandon Crawford. And I was pulling up that WAR list that you were just talking about. And I'm going to make a case for Rich Aurelia. Because Rich Aurelia has the 10th highest WAR of all time. Well, in the last 25 years of any Giant. But really the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th highest or 5th highest, I guess, of any Giant, if you don't count Barry Bonds. And so, and he's slightly ahead of Brandon Crawford in that respect. So, Rich Aurelia also led the league in hits, 1 year. Just
1 year.
Yeah. well, he had a Silver Slugger. He was an All-Star, an MVP candidate. 1 year he led the league in hits.
Yeah, but you say that like that was just any random year.
Okay, yes, that was a year that he hit 37 home runs, had 97 RBIs. Frankly, I want to know who the 11 guys ahead of him were for MVP voting that year. Because
well, I know who number one was.
Yeah, well, Barry, right? Yeah.
Well, that's why he was hitting in front of Barry the year that Barry hit 72 home runs. That's why Rich Aurelio was so darn good. They didn't want to pitch to Barry. I wish we had StatCast in that era because, man, the number of fat pitches he got was probably the highest any player has ever received in the history of baseball. When the guy hitting behind you gets walked with the bases loaded, and most people are like, yeah, that probably makes sense. You know, then yeah. So yes, I'm glad you're going for Richie. I'm glad you are. One, because it just keeps your losing streak at 100%.
I'm just trying to stretch this out, Ben. I'm just trying to give us a little bit more meat on the bone here.
You're wrong. You're wrong again.
I'm wrong. I'm just trying to I'm wrong. I'm wrong because it's got to be Brandon Crawford, right? It has to be.
Right. Well, I was going to go with Juan Uribe, but sure. Okay. I guess it could be Crawford. No? Omar Vizquel? Man, the 10th best season by a shortstop was Tyler Fitzgerald. Wow. Yeah. Okay. We've had some bad years in this quarter. So we had some really good years. We had the best years in this quarter century, but we had some clunkers too, man.
We did. That whole phrase, you can't win them all.
Yeah.
We certainly saw that.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly Crawford. Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to go through the next two positions really quickly because there's no competition. Okay. And catcher, Buster Posey. Unless you're going to come up with somebody else. You're going to make a strong argument for AJ Pierzynski or something.
Trump.
Chadwick Trump. Buster Posey is the catcher. And then left field, even though it was only 4 years, Barry Bonds.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
When you've had a different starting left fielder every year since then it that alone tells you.
You're not going to go with Connor Joe?
No.
Okay. I have a counter argument for catcher though.
Okay.
I'm just going to say, a couple. First of all, some names that we've already said. Well, one name that we've already said, Pedro Feliz. He played catcher in 2007. Okay.
That's right. He did. Yeah.
Benito Santiago on the National League champions in 2002. And, but I'm going to go with Pablo Sandoval. He played catcher in 2009.
Catcher. Okay.
So
all right.
There you go. Obviously better than Buster Posey.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Chestalea played some in 2000, and then Benji Molina. But no.
All right, center field. So this was the one where I was there's been a revolving door of veteran guys coming through center field, and so I picked two sentimental favorites, Ben.
Okay.
Tsuyoshi Shinjo and Angel Pagan.
Whoa. Okay. Well, I love the Shinjo pick. How many games did he play in center field? You know, I'm gonna throw out Andres Torres.
Okay.
And man, but
he played 108 games as a center fielder, Tsuyoshi Shinjo.
Wow. Okay. I remember him playing left field one time when I was there at a game. And
one game. He played one game in his.
Okay, well then I was at that game. I was at that game when he did. So, Let's see here. Interestingly, Shinjo was on the 2002 team. I had forgotten that it was exactly that year. Wow. But anyway, to me, I like Andres Torres in that, but it's got to be Angel Pagan, right?
So another, if we're just, as long as we're naming random guys that maybe could be an honorable mention, Gregor Blanco, for the sole reason of saving Matt Cain's perfect game, right? I mean, maybe that puts him on the all century list.
Well, and he has 2 rings, and I'm quickly looking at how many games he played at center field in those particular years for the Giants. Not a lot. He kind of bounced around in 2012. He was all over the place. He was mostly in right and left. So center was his least, and then he played 76 games at center, the most he played at any position in 2013. And then he was our primary center fielder not our primary center fielder, but he played 72 center fielders. He played 72 games in 2014.
He played 76 games in 2013.
Yeah, so Gregor Blanco, not a bad choice, you know?
Okay, I'm still going, though, with Angel Pagan.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. Like, Angel had that inside the park home run. Oh, I mean, but that catch by Gregor, I don't know. Yeah, but it's Angel.
All right. We're going with Angel Pagan. Now, right field, another one. There are really only 2 candidates in my mind. You might be able to prove, but I'm going the 2 candidates: Hunter Pence and Mike Yastrzemski.
Ooh. Why do I feel like you're wrong on both again? I mean, those are good, strong choices. I think, you know, I mean, I think I know what everybody's going to say.
Well, of course. Yes. But it's not as clear cut as you would think. Yastrzemski has played in fewer games as a Giant than Hunter Pence did, but has a higher WAR than Hunter did during his time with the Giants. Hunter's WAR with the Giants was 11.5. Mike Yastrzemski has 14.2 WAR. So, he also, his OPS plus is 114 as a Giant. Hunter Pence was 109. There's this silly little stat of championships, and Hunter Pence has 2 of them, and 1 All-Star appearance. But Mike Yastrzemski is closer to Hunter Pence than one would think.
That doesn't surprise me. But I'm going to say he's just farther away than anyone would think. You know, it's close, but it's not close. And, and that's because he doesn't have Hunter's mojo.
No, he does. He's not riding a scooter to the park.
No, he's not he's not doing the pointing into the air and doing this, the
There's no signs that say Mike Yastrzemski eats a cereal with a fork.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just none of that.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So it's why it's Mike. Because people always go for the wrong things, and you like the sizzle, but not the steak. What's wrong with humanity? It's clearly Mike Yastrzemski. His last name is Yastrzemski.
All right. Well, I'm going with Hunter Pence.
That's a reasonable choice a man can make.
I do like Mike, though. I do like him. Okay, so that's the starting lineup. But now we need to get into the pitchers, and so let's go through them quickly. I've listed a bunch of options here.
Okay.
In the order that I think that they should be in there, and so I'm gonna list a bunch of and so there's some clear cut ones right at the top, and then there's like that 5th starter role. I think that there's a lot of discussion. So I think the top 3 in my mind: Tim Lincecum, Madison Bumgarner, and Matt Cain. All right.
Okay, those are your top 3.
Those are my top 3.
Okay.
Then I have a level down, another level of Jason Schmidt. And Logan Webb. Okay, they're kind of, Logan Webb will probably eventually surpass Jason Schmidt, but as of right now, I think they're very close. Okay, and then you have that 5th starter level, and maybe because if you agree that Jason Schmidt and Logan Webb are close, then there's your top 5. But I didn't want to forget guys like Russ Ortiz, Kirk Reeder, Levon Hernandez, and even Barry Zito.
Okay. Interesting.
Now, there are some names that I left off that had huge like that they had huge roles on certain teams, but their longevity and the overall record didn't really hold up to some of these others. So
like Vogelsong.
Exactly. That's the one that I'm thinking of. Yes.
Okay.
So, but he certainly could be in there if you really, factor in his role on those world championship teams.
Okay. All right. I like it. I'm putting together my list right now on the fly. I think you're underselling Jason Schmidt a little bit. Like, I get it. Like, Lincecum is in a category all by himself. And I think Bumgarner, too. Because of Tim because of the Cy Young Awards, and Bumgarner because of the postseason. Gravitas accomplishments. But I think Schmidt was as good as those guys, right? In terms of like at his absolute best. And he had 2 fantastic seasons back to back in 2002 and 2003. So I wouldn't diminish him, but I think we're just kind of quibbling at this point. Let's see, any dark horses? The Love Muscle. He's got to go on there.
Have him as an option. I mean, he is certainly one of those that could be. I mean, I think we're lucky to have had some really great pitchers. I think both in just really great ones, and then also a lot of guys who stepped up. And so I think this is one of those lists where it's kind of harder to eliminate guys. Legitimately, I'm not making a joke here about getting somebody onto the list. Like, I mean, I kind of want to put Kirk Reeder on the list. I want to put. Noah Lowry on the list, although no, he was, what could have been. He was 6-0 before he got injured. He had a really good start to his career and then got injured. So that could be a whole other list of guys you would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
Better, but
so I think, Sean Estes. Wow.
Jake Peavy. I mean, you could name some guys.
Yeah. I mean, those are those are some, But I think it's Lincecum, Schmidt, Kane, Webb, and Bumgarner. Like those are my big ones. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now the last one, closer, because we're not going to dig into like middle relief and like setup guys, but closer. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And this one's harder because we had some good closers during some really good years. And so Rob Nen has to be on there. Okay. And again, this is only from 2000, right? So Rob Nen, Brian Wilson, Sergio Romo, and you have to mention Santiago Casilla.
Oh, wow. It's, I mean, to me, you don't want to do Tim Worrell? 38 saves in 2003.
Well, too short. I felt like
I'm just. It's like wow. Look at the Brad Hennessy, 19 saves in 2007. Did you even remember that? Do you remember that Brad Hennessy was our closer for a period of time?
No, there were some mini games on there actually as I was going through this list that there were a lot of those moments where I was like, wow, I didn't remember this guy at all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it wasn't I don't really, 2007 does not stick out in my brain, so maybe he wasn't the primary guy, but maybe he got a lot of chances or whatever. But the real question is, Matthew, is it Brian Wilson or is it Rob Nen?
Yeah. Now, Brian Wilson had the longevity as a Giant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and 2 world championships during that time. I think Rob Nen had the overall better career as a closer. But if we're going strictly with Giants, I think I got to go Brian Wilson.
I mean, his best years as a closer were with the Giants. Like he was a closer with the Marlins for 3 years, but or 4 years. But his best years were with the Giants, and he was just he was lights out. He was like, and that slider, that snap, and I think one of the reasons why Brian Wilson got that torture reputation was because the last guy that we saw do it just did it with such domination. Like, it was just strikeout, 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 game over, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It was like smoke on the water, 3 strikeouts, and then you go home. And that's how the game went. And so, I don't know, Matthew. You pick, because I don't know it's the other one.
I'm going to say, just because Brian had more years as a Giants closer, I'm going to say that's the tipping point. Yeah. But very close. Very close.
You're going to fear the beard. You're going to fear the beard.
I am going to fear the beard. Yeah.
Oh. I'm going to go with the rings, too. You're right. It's Wilson. Agreed.
All right. Well, wow, that was fun. Little trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
And for those of you who were born after 2000, I'm sorry that you don't remember some of these people, but you should look them up because they were great. And probably time to answer today's trivia question, because we are getting to the end here. Ben, the question was, when was the last time the Giants had 3 Gold Glove winners in the same season, and who were they? And you mentioned some old-timey folk.
Cohen, Terry, and I don't know. I really wanted to say Tinker's Everest Chance, but they were Cubs, you know. So yeah. I picked the middle infielders and first baseman for the 1928 Giants. That's what I did.
Okay. Well, and arguably the most frustrating season in the last quarter century, 2016.
Ooh.
The Giants had 3 Gold Glove winners that year, with Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford, and Joe Panik. All won Gold Gloves in 2016.
I was looking back at the 2016 season in the last game and the meltdown, the bullpen meltdown, which was kind of the story for that team that year.
Yeah.
It's surprising the names that are on that list that contributed to that meltdown. It's not a feel-good story, folks. It's not a feel-good story. But it was a lot of guys who you were used to doing well, not doing well. Like Lopez and Romo, and I don't know if Romo was in there, but it was. But yeah, that was a frustrating year, and that was the last of the good days.
There was a guy that year that appeared in 59 games for the Giants named Josh Osich.
I remember him. I do.
I have vague recollections of him, but he appeared in 59 games. I'd be like, wow. I was like, oh yeah, that guy. He also was the worst one.
Yeah. You know the current closer for the Yankees, Matthew, got cut by the White Sox this year?
Wow.
Just throwing that out there. Just a random tidbit here at the end of the show.
And also just like, just shows you like how
baseball.
Random, like closers, especially relievers.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, folks. Well, we gave you a little bonus content because we're going to be gone for a few weeks. So we went a little long, but hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Folks, don't forget to follow us on the socials at Giant Cocktails on Instagram, the platform formerly known as Twitter and Threads. And you can see us on YouTube, where you can leave comments. You can also leave comments on Spotify. Ben is always ready to engage with you over there. Okay, sometimes he's ready to engage with you over there. It's a hit or miss, folks.
That's right,
hit or miss. Right. But also, don't forget to rate us. It would be great as the parting gift of the 2024 season to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast or Spotify. It really would help us. And we are going to take a little break. We will miss you, but be sure to check back in, hit that subscribe button so that you know when we go live again in November. Until then, Ben, it's been good chatting with you. See you next time. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody. Jordan, Marcy, Mark, you can say Dodgers. We can all say the word. It's okay. It's okay. Like, we'll get through this together. He commented on Giant Cocktails again. On Spotify, sorry.
Oh, all right.
You inspired me to go check.
I'll just send you a text randomly every now and then saying, hey, have you checked Spotify? All right. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
What am I going to do during my time off?
On your Sunday evenings?
Fart around and do shit on the internet. I don't know.
Same.
Oh, no, I know what I'm going to fucking do.
What?
Clean the fucking kitchen like I do every other fucking night of the week. That's all I do anymore is fucking clean the kitchen